Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Return to Alpha, A New Saga Begins by Wesley Britton, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1, Arrivals. In the year 2044, large crowds had become an uncommon sight on Alpha Earth. Decades of devastating weaponized pandemics and the impact of global warming had resulted in rising waters that eroded coastlines, sank coastal cities, and left rivers and lakes swollen far beyond their former banks. What hope could humanity have after all the brutal years of famines, quarantines, evacuations, and the shunning of possibly infected survivors? Hopelessness had fueled the sometimes complete breakdown of social order, nations closing themselves off from the rest of the world, and the unleashed murderous rage of young men punishing fellow survivors for reasons that often stretched reason or objectivity. Too many believed rumors that other places were getting aid denied them. Too many refused to believe there was anywhere on the planet unaffected by what had reduced Earth's population to perhaps a third of what it had once been. Disease and climate change were horrific enough, add in scapegoating, shunning, and worldwide fear in expanding layers of destructive human relations. Yes, humanity had endured too many inconceivable losses to leave many hoping their world could ever recover. It was that rage that had long made gathering in large crowds so risky, so fatal, but not everywhere. In lands like the island country of Jamaica, a place that never had any major pull in international relations, there was far more sorrow than anger. There was no one there who could be blamed for the loss or unfair distribution of resources. Like many such countries, only victims survived. So when the islanders returned to hosting their colorful, very musical festivals and international travel was permitted again, Jamaica became a magnet for visitors who desperately needed respite from the turmoil of their homelands. Humans needed reminders of what their world had once been. So on that February day, when 6 aliens in the Maravern spaceship touched down on the white sands of Doctor's Cave Beach, they landed at the most ideal location possible. In less populated places, local law enforcement and other government entities would have immediately done everything possible to suppress the news of an alien landing. Such matters, most governments would have felt, should be cloaked in secrecy, fearing how the public would react. But there was no way there could be any secrecy with the arrival of the Maravern. From the moment it appeared in the bright, clear, sunny skies over Jamaica, for miles, video phones and cameras began recording the strange craft's descent. Almost immediately, videos of the unexpected sight were sent to online sites all over the internet. At Doctor's Cave, even more recorders focused on the ship when it glided down for its landing. The only time the ship was hidden from view was when it approached the ground and thick white beams coming from its bottom kicked up clouds of beach, sand, and debris into the air. It looked nothing like anything anyone had ever seen before. With its pulsating, throbbing, rumbling hum that quickly went away once the craft settled on the sand, it sounded like nothing ever heard. The triangular hull of the main piece of the ship was a deep black corrugated metal that vibrated in the sunlight as if it was a living thing. No obvious windows, lighting, or hatches were evident. The front part of the ship was around 30 feet long, with a middle peak running front to back around 7 feet tall towards its back end. Behind the triangle were 2 large round metal bulbs about 12 feet in diameter. "That thing is kind of eerily beautiful," one onlooker whispered into its camera's microphone. "It's kind of menacing, all black on this white beach." Interest in the craft grew even more when a side hatch opened and 6 passengers slowly stumbled out onto the sand. As the aliens became visible, many amateur photographers climbed onto chairs and tables to shoot over the heads of the scattered groups of the beachgoers. Gasps of surprise burst from all over the beach, especially from so many amazed children who raced away from their water sports to join in on the excitement. In particular, those who saw the large-chinned Hamid pilots didn't know if they should be startled, frightened, or laugh out loud. Those bulging foreheads, vampiric incisors, jutting jaws, and snowshoe-sized feet on the pilots were nothing anyone walking a sunny beach would expect to see. The other 4 visitors, looking so normal, didn't get as much attention. Mostly, the people watched how the 2 men and 2 women had a difficulty standing up. But only for a few moments. It didn't take long for two of the human-looking aliens, the pair carrying black satchels over their shoulders, who looked very much like average teenagers, to rise wobbly to their feet and start looking around. After they said a few words to each other, the young man raised his right hand in greeting and called out, "Greetings, my fellow humans of Alpha Earth. My name is Malcolm Renborn III, and my sister and I," he indicated a smiling Ulray beside him, "come to you from our home planet, which we call Cerapin-Earth." "And the others behind us," Ulray called out, stepping forward towards the crowd, "include our brother and sister from another Earth as well, their home planet called Beta-Earth. All our Earths are part of our shared multiverse, which we have come to tell you about. All our planets, including yours, share the spaces in between the swirling masses you call atoms." Malcolm III and Ulray looked around them, not certain how far their voices had carried, considering how loud the rhythmic music of the synthesized horns and guitars, thumping bass, and the melodic pounding on the steel pan drums was in the background. They needn't have worried. They had everyone's undivided attention, to put it mildly. Some people were even applauding, thinking the show was some sort of creative entertainment. By this time, Malcolm II and Calmeg had staggered to their feet, their eyes also looking all around them. They couldn't have known it, but many cameras carried by male watchers were tightly focused on Calmeg's perfectly sculpted hourglass figure. Instead, the Betans heard Ulray call out, "Oh, before I forget, let me introduce you to our Cerapin pilots back there, the Hamed brothers. I know they might not look it, but they do share our common humanity, the humanity that populates all our worlds." While Malcolm III and Ulray began walking toward the gawking people who stared at them with open mouths and wide eyes, Malcolm II and Calmeg simply looked back at the onlookers. If the aliens intrigued the local folk, well, the Jamaicans and their guests were equally interesting sights for the Renborns. Under the coconut trees that dotted the beach, people were sitting beneath large shading umbrellas or stood around wearing sunglasses, hats, and wildly colorful shirts and shorts. Without question, the most eye-catching sights were the swimsuits and the bodies wearing them. "Bothers people," Malcolm observed happily, his eyes drinking in the tan and dark-skinned women displaying all that human flesh in those swimsuits. "It would be nice to think," Calmeg replied, her own eyes appreciating the hard bodies of the other gender. "They arranged this party just to welcome us." However, it was quickly evident the aliens weren't as welcome as they hoped. Suddenly, several official vehicles pushed their way through the crowds. 6 uniformed men came running at them, holding out pistols gripped in both hands. 5 of them wore white and blue striped short-sleeve shirts and black serge trousers with red stripes down their seams. The one in front, the obvious leader, wore a khaki jacket, shirt, and trousers with epaulets on his shoulders. He wore a deep blue peaked cap with a black band and silver braiding on the peak. He was the one to call out, "All of you, down on your knees. Now, toss those satchels away from you, away from the crowd. Now!" The surprised 4 Renborn slowly dropped to their knees. Not understanding a word they heard, the Hameds followed suit. The officer who had called out the commands came closer. "Now, let me see your papers." "Papers?" Malcolm III looked up. "Papers? Your entry visas, your passports, your official permission to land that craft over there." I guess you didn't hear. We are from other planets. That spaceship just jumped across 3 universes. These are our very first minutes on your Earth." "Aha, and I'm Bob Marley's ghost. Flat on the ground, all of you. Put your hands behind your backs." In short order, one group of very worried-looking officers gave the satchels special attention, sending over 2-wheeled box-shaped robots that pulled the satchels into their metal bellies. At the same time, other policemen went behind the 6 aliens and secured their wrists with hand ties. "Be careful with those satchels," Malcolm III cried out. "They contain all our records and files we brought to share with your planet." "Aha," the one in charge responded. "Maybe some bombs to create a bit of havoc here?" Oh no, Ulray cried out. "We have no weapons. We need no weapons." "Enough talk." The officer looked over his shoulder as 2 quarantine vans approached. Calmeg looked up from her now very uncomfortable vantage point and sighed. It was just this morning she was standing on her home Earth, her wrists free, her future much simpler than it was now. Father, mother, It's my turn now. I will make us all proud. The Jamaica Daily Messenger, Special Edition, Monday, March 4, 2044, by Noel Fleming. Photograph and video gallery by Tara Clemens. Exclusive. First interviews with first aliens to ever land on Earth. Humankind has always wondered if we were alone in the universe. And all those planets in our galaxy and beyond, shouldn't we expect to someday encounter other forms of life? And what about other universes where perhaps other kinds of humanity might live on parallel Earths? Last Monday, revelers at the Doctor's Cave Beach in Montego Bay were the first to see a strange triangular spaceship with two bulbous pods attached to it drop from the skies. Photo and videos attached. It carried 6 beings, claiming to be from not one but 2 such parallel Earths. At first, witnesses thought they were seeing some sort of Hollywood stunt to promote a new movie. 2 of the creatures that came out of that ship, Rose Leiter of Saratoga, Florida, reported, looked like Klingons or Wookiees or something. Very believable makeup. Raul Esperanza of Santa Clara, Cuba, had a similar reaction. I think everyone thought we were watching some sort of staged show. Then the police came out and handcuffed the strangers, and everyone began to worry. I think most of us were relieved when the bomb bots scooped up the satchels on the beach. Perhaps we'd just seen some very inventive terrorists get arrested before they could do any damage. In fact, officers of the Jamaica Constabulary Force very quickly apprehended the 6 aliens after 4 of them made attempts to introduce themselves to the crowds on the beach. After determining the situation was more appropriately the jurisdiction of the military intelligence branch of the Jamaica Defense Force, the aliens were placed in their custody and taken to the JDF's headquarters in Kingston. Within hours, JDF investigators conceded the stranded spacecraft had extraterrestrial origins. A spokesperson for the scientific branch of the agency, who wished to remain anonymous, told the messenger, "There's no way the material is used, the construction design, or the controls boards in that thing came from anywhere on our planet. We have so much to explore and test to find out how this thing ticks, assuming we have the authority to do what we need to do." Not certain of the legal ramifications in this unprecedented situation, Barrister William Anderson was asked to interview and represent the apparent aliens if they so desired. After consulting with his clients and the supervising officers, Anderson pointed out that while ignorance of the law has never been a legal defense, visitors from other planets should not be expected to know the proper procedures of acquiring entry visas and passports. At his insistence, all charges against the 6 were dropped. The aliens' main request was to be able to speak to the press, so Anderson contacted the messenger and arranged for the most historic conversation in Earth's history. Table Talk with Aliens. So yesterday at around 10:30 a.m., Anderson, photographer Tara Clemens, and this reporter were ushered into a dining hall at the JDF headquarters. There was no shortage of armed bots surrounding everyone. Because of an invisible quarantine shield dividing the room, all our voices would be sent and heard through the embedded microphones and speakers in the long laminated table in the center of the hall. We felt in no danger, even though we were among the very first to meet Jamaica's most unexpected guests. At the table, 6 figures sat together, clearly waiting for our arrival. Like the beach witnesses, my eyes were first drawn to the identical pair that indeed reminded me of old movie creatures like Klingons or Wookiees. As readers can see in the attached photos, the aliens, apparently named Hamed El and Hamed Lee, looked nothing like their companions. Instead, their bulging foreheads, large protruding jaws, and gray skins, illustrated by colorful natural blotches and stripes, streaks, and splashes, very much looked like a Hollywood creation. As we took our places across from the aliens, the youngest of the 4 normal-appearing beings spoke up. "I see your interest in our pilots. Before you ask them anything, please know they don't understand English. I act as their translator. Also know that, as many have asked before, they can't tell you much about how our ship, the Maravern, works. By deliberate design, the builders didn't want the pilots to know things that might prove dangerous in Alphan scientific hands. On top of that, when we landed here, they erased and destroyed all the memory banks in the Maravern operating systems for the same reason." And that reason is, a yellow-eyed, dark-skinned beauty added, is that on both our homeworlds, Beta-Earth and Cerapin-Earth, reckless scientists tried to duplicate multiverse jumps at times the deities didn't permit. On both planets, horrific consequences resulted. Thousands died on both Earths. So we brought nothing to tempt anyone here to try to do the same. Curious to learn how these visitors knew such perfect, crystal clear English, I was astonished with what I heard. According to the dark-skinned girl, 4 of them were from the same family, sharing the same father, and they claimed he was originally from our planet. He had taught them English, they said, as something of a private family code, as no one else on their homeworlds knew their father's language. Studying their faces, I could see a slight family resemblance, but as they claimed to have different mothers, they were all distinct in appearance. To my far left sat a rather handsome, strongly built man who introduced himself as Malcolm Renborn II. 24 years old, the oldest of the group, he said his father was Dr. Malcolm Renborn of Charleroi, Pennsylvania. 40 years to the day before their arrival in Jamaica, Renborn said his father had been ripped from Alpha Earth, transported to Beta-Earth, and began a new life. That's a rather long story. Next to him sat the golden-eyed, chocolate-skinned Calmeg Renborn, clearly from a different mother. 23 years old, the second oldest of the group, she said her mother had been bonded to the Renborn tribe due to the will of Olos, the goddess of Beta-Earth. My mother was the prophesied gift from my country, Balnakin, to tribe Renborn as part of the reconciliation between my people and the Renborns. Again, another long story. Beside her sat the other female of the group, an attractive, demure 16-year-old girl who called herself Ulrey Renborn. While I was born on Cerapin-Earth, my mother was from Beta. She was one of the 5 Betan wives who came with father to Cerapin 20 years ago when our tribe had a new mission, to make Cerapin-Earth aware of the multiverse. As we keep saying, another long story. Finally, I was introduced to Malcolm Renborn III, the one who had claimed to be the translator for the pilots. His skin also had the colorful markings of the big-jawed twins. I am the one-half Cerapin of my family in this room. My mothers were a pair much like my Hamed friends here. On our planet, many humans are pairs who share, you probably didn't know, their minds, thoughts, and physical sensations. Other Cerapins are like me, NAMs they call us. NAMs are single-bodied humans, once branded defectives and outcasts, until father and tribe Renborn changed all that. Guess what? Yep, another long story. When I asked why this Renborn family had so many mothers, I heard another astonishing answer. On Beta-Earth, the one called Malcolm Renborn II responded, for as long as we have recorded history, we suffered from the ancient curse we called the Plague with No Name. For millennia, that plague killed 3 out of 4 male babies that first year. So it shouldn't be surprising our tribal structure was based on polygamous bondings of a husband and usually 3 or 4 wives. Come to think of it, I know of no other family with 9 wives like father had. There was a reason for that, Calmex said. Father's main mission on Beta was not only to make our planet aware of the multiverse and spread alpha knowledge everywhere, but to create numerous alpha-beta bloodlines. For many years, doctors hoped our genetics might contain the cure for the plague. That didn't happen until Malcolm II over here. His genetics are something unusual, but that too is a story for another day. Was this mission repeated on Cerapin-Earth? I asked. Not quite, Malcolm III answered. Our planet is not polygamous. As we have a serious overpopulation problem, that isn't our practice. No, father wasn't expecting to take on any more wives. My mother's, however, rather made it impossible for him to resist their charms. While I have quite a few brothers and sisters on Cerapin, tribe Renborn's main mission, other than spreading knowledge of both Alpha and Beta, was the championing of Nam rights like we mentioned before. And what is your mission here? I asked. To bring awareness of the multiverse to Alpha Earth, of course, Ulrey answered, and awareness of the power of all the deities, Olos, Cerapin, and your godfather called Jehovah or Allah or whatever name you prefer. We will have much, very much to share with you about the deities. I don't know if anyone told you, but we brought with us rather extensive records in many formats with so many details of life on Beta and Cerapin-Earths. They're on what we call skill pads, but we don't know how successful your people will be on scrambling the texts and pictures on our technology. We certainly hope you'll be able to open them so you'll have so much knowledge and information to share with Alphans everywhere. Are you planning on creating your own polygamous families? The 4 Renborns laughed. No, while we are open to finding mates, Ulrey replied, We have no directives to introduce any of our customs to Alpha Earth. Nothing like that at all. But we're going to be here for a while. Unless the deities do something different we don't know about, no cross-versal window will open for another 20 years. That seems to be their pattern. We're going nowhere. And before you ask, no one else is coming after us. No one can. Other than sharing my home planet with you, Calmeg added, I certainly don't know of any other missions. Before we boarded the Maravern, neither Malcolm II nor I had even ever met the Cerapin-Renborns. Every conversation we've had has been here, wherever here exactly is. What future plans do you have? You tell us, Malcolm II shrugged. Since we've been here, we've been in rather restrained protective custody. Our only real plans are to talk to any reporters that want to interview us. We hinted at many long stories to tell. Well, we're willing to tell them. We're eager to share all of them. On behalf of my family, let me invite you to return, Noel Fleming of the Messenger. We've got stories for you that would fill books on 2 Earths. They already have. Sidebar by Noel Fleming. An alien shares why she came to our Earth. While most of the alien company left us to spend time with scientific and medical personnel, I was delighted to continue my interview with the charming and engaging Ulrey Renborn. Clearly, she was eager to answer all the questions I wanted to ask, so I didn't want to miss this opportunity. Of the 4 aliens who called themselves Renborns, this fresh-faced, pleasant teenager looked the least like she came from another planet. It was very hard to think of her as an alien at all. You'd think she might see any ordinary high school function. Her siblings are a different story, at least 2 of them. The yellow eyes on her sister, the brown-skinned stunner, aren't the eyes you'll ever see on anyone from our planet. The colorings on the younger Malcolm Renborn looked like he was subjected to the needles of a mad tattoo artist with a lot of extra ink on his shop. True, the older Malcolm looked like an intelligent law student or rising business executive, not a visitor from another universe. As far as this reporter is concerned, Ulrey Renborn looked to me like she could have been one of my neighbor's daughters, the sort of girl you'd like to have as a babysitter for your kids. Not an alien with so many strange tales to tell, and a young alien at that. So my first question for her was just why teenagers have been charged with this historic mission. Who else could do it? On our Earth, only we Renborns know English, so only we could communicate with you. Our father has been teaching us about his homeworld since our birth. My brother and I are the oldest of his Cerapin children, so who better to do it? Why didn't your father come himself? Didn't he want to see his homeworld again? Good Lord. Father's 75 years old now. He's had his life pulled out from under him twice now. Why would he start over again and lose his second family now? He's done all the deities asked of him and more. What man has been forced to sacrifice more than him? And what would be here for him now? She wove her fingers together and looked down at her thumbs. Father's memories of his alpha life were not happy ones. He felt a constant failure before his capture. The teenager offered a deep, sad smile. I don't believe Father's body could have stood 2 more jumps across the universal barriers. From personal experience, I can tell you the pain is excruciating. Every cell in your body explodes, stretches, every hair on your skin turns into a field of burning wicks. In that wall of fire, every bone, muscle, and tissue of a body disintegrates and then somehow remolds. I have no idea how the Hamads were able to control our ship in the descent. The deities must have given them special protection. That's my guess. You keep mentioning those deities. How could your Olos or Cerapin force your family to do anything? Renborn looked at the verge of laughter. Well, Father was captured by a device well beyond his control. When he met Mother Lori, my namesake, he heard prophecies about what his Beta life would be. For his entire time on Beta, Lori shared prophecy after prophecy about what had to happen in Tribe Renborn, and that included the crossover from Beta to Cerapin-Earth. Renborn let loose a short laugh. I can tell you Father came to resent the will of Olos deep in his bones day after day, year after year. He had to learn to accept her wishes, but he never liked her very much. On Cerapin, he finally came to a spiritual peace, but I think that was only possible after he knew his labors were done. When all the prophecies seemed completed, when he and his family could enjoy our time together in our secret and secluded island sanctuary, he found peace. To answer your question, how can deities force anyone to do anything? Try resisting them. Our tribe can promise you that never works, even when they ask the most seemingly awful of tasks. And they often do. So you believe your coming here was like that, something preordained for you? Renborn nodded vigorously. You can believe this or no, but I carry with me the gift or curse, depending on how you perceive such things, of prophecy. It's not fully awakened in me yet. I must allow connections with your Earth's spiritual entities to come to me. I knew pretty much my entire life my destiny was to come to Alpha. While they were less than happy about it, my father and birth mother knew it too. But, as I've already said, they have long been accustomed to doing what the deities want. How was your flight here arranged? Surely that happened using ordinary science. Renborn nodded again. For 10 years, I grew up in my family's happy seclusion. When tribe Renborn decided to again rejoin the wider world, it wasn't long before science came knocking. Unlike previous times when foolish experimenters wanted to open the universal barrier when no window was open, this time respectful minds came to our parents explaining they intended to follow the guidance of spiritual leaders, in particular Oracle Priestess Bijou, who had very important connections with our family, shared with what the scientists needed to know in terms of time and place. Were you involved with building the spaceship? Not at all. None of us had that sort of knowledge. Over the past few years, from time to time, our parents, my brother and I, and other siblings visited the laboratory where the Maravern was built. We didn't understand much of anything we saw, I admit, to being very frightened as the day grew closer and closer. My brother felt queasy and alarmed as well. Of course, we knew one thing. We were under the protection of the dual-gendered god-goddess Cerapin, and we could not be here without the open arms of your supreme deity either. So you're saying you're here on a divine mission, that you bring with you the will of these deities you keep mentioning? Only in a limited way. We have no words, no messages, no sermons to preach. We are here to spread awareness of the multiverse and your shared place in it. We will share our lives, our experiences. What you make of them is your decision. We're not here to tell you to do this, not do that. Just hear us. The morning after the Messenger article was published and republished all over the world, Bob McLean, the usually soft-spoken ambassador from the sovereign Southern Union, angrily stormed into the office of Leonard Valentine Howe, the head of military intelligence for the Jamaican Defense Force. What the hell is wrong with you people? McLean almost shouted. What in the bloody blue blazes were you thinking, or not thinking? Completely unaccustomed to being spoken to this way, Howe looked over his desk and wondered how diplomatic he was going to be. He'd met McLean and exchanged words with him at a handful of social functions. McLean, being the newest representative of a new breakaway country many thought of as the new Confederacy, the true title being the Sovereign Southern Union. But McLean and Howe never built a relationship that would make this tirade acceptable, at least in Howe's opinion. Americans, no matter what they call themselves, always overdo everything, Howe thought glumly. That includes the hair gel McLean covered his head with to give his curly blonde locks that Romanesque flair, if flair be the right word. With the screens and screens of work before him on his dual laptops, Howe wasn't in the mood for pugnacious interruptions. What in the bloody blue blazes, as you say, are you talking about? What's up your ass, Bob? Those Messenger articles. Now, I know it would have been impossible to put a really good tight lid on this situation after that public splashdown at Doctor's Cave, but your office just leaked like an overexcited sieve. Who leaked the details of that ship? Don't you realize how potentially dangerous it is to allow unfiltered things from those aliens to be tossed out there? I saw no effort at journalism in that piece. No investigation or vetting or verification of those stories. No confirmation of anything at all. Despite himself, Howe forced a smile. You say that like I had anything to do with those articles. Not every country is so restrictive with news as yours. And how do you propose we, journalists, or my people, confirm or vet stories from two other planets? That's your job. Are we to take it at face value they cleaned out their spaceship systems for our protection? Or maybe they are keeping us from finding defensive technology that might help us if more of these people are coming? Do we really know they are actually aliens in the first place? Aliens that speak such perfect English makes no sense at all. Anyone talk to them to find out if they're simply scouts and advance party here to soften us up for an invasion to come? You have more questions than a Senate committee at a U.S. confirmation hearing. Probably more. How do we know those beings aren't responsible for the epidemic waves, many of which still have unknown origins? Do you know if they carry any contagious infections now? Jesus Christ, we live on a planet desperate for hope. Hope from anywhere. Even aliens claiming to be doing the bidding of pagan gods. Don't you realize the comments about all those so-called deities published in the Messenger might spark religious firestorms all over the world if they haven't already? With increasing anger, Hal found his own voice rising. Bob, I can assure you our interrogators and doctors have been far from lax. If you'd like to see the very extensive files of our interviews, I'll happily send copies to you. All 6 aliens have spent hours on MBBs, the most advanced medical bed bots on the planet. Their bodies have been analyzed down to the smallest molecules. The blood people are very excited about some of the otherworld components they're finding. Oh yes, they're aliens. 4 of them, perhaps half aliens, depending on your definition of humanity. We do know they don't carry any diseases we know about. They seem quite healthy. In fact, some of our doctors worry more about their possible susceptibility to germs on our Earth than they may have no immunities to. Those MBB scans included MRIs and EKGs and all manner of medical probings. Hal sat back and glared at the ambassador. We've crawled all over that spaceship of theirs. Our metallurgists tell me it's made of more than remarkable material. We should get interesting reports from them. One report I've already seen made sense to me. They said that 2 back pods which carried the fuel for the 2 jumps are drained dry. 1 pod for the jump to Beta-Earth, 1 for the jump here. Still, they hope to find molecular residue in there, but I share some of your worries. Did the aliens tell the truth about why they purged the records of that spaceship? Should we believe their claims that cross-universal window only open every 20 years, like clockwork? Some of our scientists say we should think of those windows as wormholes, but what forces can control wormholes and dictate such a specific timetable? He shrugged. Well, our interrogations are far, far from over.